Darth Maul and Darth Vader, Darth Sidious's two most dangerous apprentices and some of cinema's most iconic movie villains. Most Star Wars fans have long thought that the duel between these two characters could never happen, but with Maul resurrected in the Clone Wars and living until just a few years before A New Hope, there's plenty of opportunities now to see these two in combat. So, here's a few of my ideas as to how that could happen and how that would play out. In Solo, it's established that Maul had risen to the rank of crime lord over Crimson Dawn, a vast criminal enterprise that Han and Kira got roped into. However, by the time we get to Rebels, Maul is a lonely and desperate recluse, searching for a Sith artifact on the Sith world of Malachor. So, what happened that brought Maul down from crime lord to loner trapped on the Sith world? I think Vader and the Empire tracked down Maul's criminal enterprise and destroyed it, leaving Maul with no allies. In fact, in Rebels, if you'll note, Maul tells the rebel heroes he needs them because, quote unquote, I can't face Vader alone, implying that he fought Vader once already. I think, therefore, we've got a solid foundation for a Vader and Maul battle. I think either Imperial spies track Maul, or even better, I think Kira will betray Maul, telling the Imperials where Maul is in exchange for immunity from Imperial arrest and eventual torture and death. If we remember back to Solo, even though Kira is um, following Maul, even though she's taking orders from him, you get the sense that there is distrust between her and Maul. There's lots of tension, and Kira's already established herself to be a treacherous person in Solo. So let's say she betrays Maul. She runs to the nearest Imperial base and informs Imperial authorities that Maul is hiding on Dathomir. So let's assume if that happens, Vader becomes alerted and is dispatched by the Emperor to lead an expedition to Dathomir to kill Maul on Palpatine's orders. So, with that basic premise established, let's get into Vader and Maul's strengths and weaknesses and how those will play out in the eventual battle. Vader's strengths are twofold. First, he is physically brutal and stronger than most, if not all, opponents. Each blow he lays down causes his opponent to expend huge sums of energy just to block his blows, slow they may be. Both as Vader and as Anakin, he constantly, doggedly keeps his opponents on the defensive. Whenever it comes to fighting Obi-Wan, he repeatedly slams his blade down on Obi-Wan, trying to pin Obi-Wan into a corner. When he's Anakin and he takes on both Obi-Wan and others like Dooku and Ventress, he repeatedly, even though he is lighter and a little more agile than he is as Vader, he's constantly keeping his opponents on the defensive. Here, for example, we see him fight Count Dooku aboard the Invisible Hand. Look, he's keeping Dooku on the defensive. He overwhelms him with his strikes. Here, when he fights Obi-Wan and Mustafar, he's again keeping Obi-Wan on the defensive, slamming his blade down over and over, just doing everything he can to keep Obi-Wan on the defensive. That's going to be Vader's main form of combat in saber fighting, keeping his opponent on the defensive. Another great example is here during the Clone Wars when he fights Barriss Offee. He grabs her, he slams her back, he overpowers her physically. Here you see him slamming his blade against her, and then he then grabs her, or you see him slamming his blade down there. That's a signature Anakin move. He then slams her into the tree, just completely overpowers her. That is classic Anakin slash Vader. When he fights Dooku in the midst of the Clone Wars, he slams Dooku down on his back and then grabs him and tries to strangle him. Again, that's a classic Vader move, always keeping his opponents on the defensive. But that's not all. Vader's also a master at telekinesis. He throws rocks, he throws boulders, he throws everything he can at his opponents to keep them on the defensive and to keep some physical distance between them. This is something he really does as Darth Vader, mainly because as Vader, he is a little bit slower not as agile as he used to be. So he force pushes, throws, chokes, uses uses telekinesis to keep physical distance between his opponents and himself. I think it's a smart tactic and shows that as he gets older, Vader does learn to be more cautious in combat. In The Empire Strikes Back, he uses metal pipes. He uses the Force to throw metal pipes at Luke just to keep Luke, again, putting Luke on the defensive, making sure that Luke, while Luke is struggling to keep up with Vader, Vader is just throwing everything he can at him. He'll throw his opponents through a force storm, a force tornado, if you may, just to make sure that he can beat them down while at the same time not exposing his armor and his prosthetics to attack from his opponent's sabers. So, again, Vader is the master of telekinesis. He's the master of using everything in the room or in the area to his advantage. Um, Very few characters in Star Wars use telekinesis as much as him, but he does have some weaknesses. For one, he's a lot slower, and if someone does get in striking distance of him, he he's he often gets into trouble. When he fought Obi-Wan in Episode 6 of the Kenobi series, when Obi-Wan damaged his breathing respirator, the fight was over. Vader just got beat up. He got beat bad after that. So if his opponent can get close enough to damage his suit, then the fight's over. Maul's primary power is his insane blade work and agility. Two powerful Jedi Knights with ease and destroyed Black Sun with really no effort at all. His two blades would be like fighting a wind turbine. Maul's also a master of telekinesis, destroying a Republic warship at the end of the Clone Wars by crippling the ship's engine, specifically the hyperdrive, I believe. He he does have a lot of force abilities, but I really can't comment too much on those abilities because aside from the destroyer incident in Clone Wars, we really haven't seen Maul extensively use them against other force users, unlike Vader. On the flip side, we do see Maul get arrogant, and when he gets arrogant typically when he gets the better of his opponents, and then his opponents come back from seeming defeat and they take him off guard in a surprise attack. Ahsoka, apparently cornered, knocks Maul off a ledge and defeats him that way. Kenobi cuts him down when he jumps out of the reactor core and cuts Maul down. The best thing an enemy can do to Maul to beat him is to let him think that he's winning the fight. Another time we see Maul lose was when he fought his former mentor, Darth Sidious, after Sidious killed Maul's brother. So, one other potential weakness we decipher from this is Maul's attachment to his brother. But another way to look at this is Sidious, similar to Darth Vader, also uses telekinesis a lot more than Maul, and uses this telekinesis to throw Maul around the room like a rag doll. So I think Sidious's superior experience with telekinesis allowed him to win that fight, and I think Darth Vader would benefit from that superior experience as well in combat. So where that leaves us with the Maul and Vader duel, I think Maul will do everything he can to get close to Vader so that Maul can destroy Vader's breathing apparatus, while Vader will make Maul pay for every inch he gets closer to Vader. Vader will try to keep some physical distance between him and Maul. Maul will get bruised and bloodied with debris as Vader hurls everything at him. Think the scene in Empire Strikes Back where Luke gets beat up really bad with debris, only with Maul substituted for Luke. Even when Maul gets close to Vader, though, which I think he will, it'll be a close fight. Once they make contact, Vader will use his physical strength to slam his blade against Maul's blade, making Maul's shoulders buckle and making Maul possibly fall back a little bit, forcing him to regroup due to the sheer physical impact of Vader's blade swings. But Maul will get the advantage once he gets close to Vader. Vader will have to fall back to keep Maul away from his life support suit. Eventually, I suspect Maul will land some blows on Vader's suit. However, unlike with Kenobi, I don't think Maul's blows will cause as much damage to Vader. First of all, I don't think Vader will be quite as careless and with fighting when fighting Maul as opposed to when he fought Obi-Wan. I think Vader's defeat at Obi-Wan's hands in the Kenobi series is because of Vader's attachment, his emotional attachment to Obi-Wan, which caused him to weaken, which Palpatine points out at the end of the series. He says, you know, your emotional attachment to Obi-Wan caused you to weaken. So it may not have been so much his suit as much as it was Vader's um, emotional conflicts that caused him to lose the fight to Obi-Wan. I think if Maul does, and I think Maul will damage Vader's suit, I don't think the damage to Vader's suit will be as extensive, nor will the damage cause Vader to give up the fight or lose. I think it actually may empower him and Rage Vader, which will his increase Vader's connection to the dark side, enabling him to grow stronger and enable him to counterattack Maul. Vader will land multiple blows against Maul, forcing Maul back. Vader's a very aggressive fighter, whether he's Anakin or Vader. He's very aggressive, likes to keep his opponent on the back foot. He will try to force Maul back. Then, once he does so, he'll then seize Maul by the throat and hurl him against the wall, knocking Maul into submission with the Force, similar to what Palpatine did to Maul in the Clone Wars series. So again, I think big picture, Vader will sustain some damage to his suit, possibly extensive damage. Not the kind of damage he sustained in the Kenobi series, but I think we will see him sustain damage. And there will be parts of the battle where Vader is on the retreat, or at least taking steps back to try to keep Maul from damaging his breathing apparatus. That said, I think Vader's greater use of the Force combined with his pure rage, I think will give him the advantage over Darth Maul. I think it'll be a close fight. I think both parties will sustain a lot of damage, but ultimately I'm going to have to give this to Darth Vader. So with Vader the winner, this leaves the Empire in control of Dathomir and the Crimson Dawn criminal enterprise in shambles. I think Maul will then flee to Malachor with the intentions of finding a Sith artifact that is powerful enough to turn the tide against Palpatine and Vader. So those are just my thoughts on how this Vader Maul confrontation would go down. If you guys have any other thoughts or any suggestions on how Maul and Vader would square off and what the results of that would be, feel free to comment below and let us know. I think this would be a fun movie to watch or even a fun mini series to watch. I know that right now that it's not really in the works, at least not as far as I know. But I know Hayden Christensen has expressed an interest in playing Vader again in Vader's own series. So maybe that could provide us a window for Vader and Maul to square off. If not, hopefully we will see Vader and Maul square off in some other format. So either way, you guys have a good rest of the week, and I will talk to you again soon.